This build has insane freeze, insane chill, insane curses, insane ailments, insane shock, bleed, ignite, and I'm going to show you how to use all of these things and how we set up this build, which is very fluid, very easy to play, just everything is so smooth, just beautiful warrior build. We're using a mace, and I'm also going to show you a unique that I believe is not used, and I think it's bugged. Little background check, I'm a Challenger League of Legends player, best Udyr in the motherfucking world, and I just had a lot of fun with Path of Exile II playing it blind, not really looking at guides or stuff like that, just reading the wiki, maybe talking with some friends a bit, discussing some stuff, and that's about it really. Everything is home cooked and you'll see it's pretty insane cooking. I think it was very fun making this build, and I started in the 0-3 League with some ideas, and then I upgraded it in 0-4 at the start of the league, and like with League of course. And we're gonna use Sunder, which is a very weird skill. How to use this for clearing Sunder. Like bro, look, it covers a lot of ground and it's really fast right now. One attack time, you can get Onslaught and other things. And we're also using Earth Shatter. Why not just show you a little bit of a Twisted Domain run, so you can get an idea. And I'll show you how I get this WARCRY to be powerful, low cooldown, stacking your rage, medium multiple empowered attacks, etc. and how we put all of these ailments on enemies, what we are running. But here, this is just for your attention span. You can see that the clear with Sunder, very easy, very smooth, covers a lot of area. If I feel like I got a better angle, usually when enemies are like right in front of you, you can also use Earth Shatter. Earth Shatter amazing for clearing as well, if you don't have the Sunder set up yet, but I'm mostly only using it for a single target. I believe Earth Shatter is one of the best skills in the game. If built correctly around it, of course. The main thing that started this build is the Blood Barbs node on Blood Mage. We're playing a Blood Mage, Blood Barbs. Bleeding you inflict on cursed targets is aggravated. Elemental damage also contributes to Bleeding Mag. So here we get an opportunity for a little showcase of what it does, but essentially no problems clearing any type of content, any type of map. The damage from Sunder will be high, it will overkill monsters. One Sunder can even kill elites, and this is right now 0.9 attack time with some Onslaught, with some other speed buffs. Potentially get from Headhunter or Trance. It's overall just very functional, because that's the main problem with the Sunder skill. It's very high, like 2 seconds plus, especially if you want to run Calm's Madness. And in just a moment, I'll show you more on how we make this work. I don't really care about this stuff. Little lag, refresh my Headhunter so I don't get the buffs, so you guys can get a real idea how this works. Alright, so I'm stacking my rage with the WARCRY. Drop a Forge Hammer, and then it's frozen, stunned, stunned. You get a lot of power effects, as you can see there. It's a very easy kill. I mean, it wasn't even the best run ever, it was a little bit unlucky, I gotta say. As it can be even faster than that. But it's pretty much, he doesn't get to do anything, he gets frozen, stunned, that's usually the loop. Stun, freeze, stun, monsters can't move, they are giga slowed, shock is high, they're turned into vegetables. So, let's go into order now. We are using a WARCRY on secondary weapon set, okay? So, everything on the WARCRY is second weapon set, simple as that. And by having it on the second weapon set, we get special effects, such as chance to empower additional attacks, minimum power, WARCRY empower an additional attack. These combined can give you 5, but by default you have 2 without even hitting enemies. You get some AoE, speed, whatever. Here you can get some life recovery. It's just mostly AoE, speed, cooldown recovery, which brings them from 0.8 use time and cooldown to about 0.3, which makes it play a bit like Warbringer. You don't really have cooldowns on your WARCRY. You can explode the Earth Shatters at will, and you can empower a large amount of attacks, and then the Infernal Cry is going to feed the blood barbs for bleeding, because it's gonna count towards the bleeding. Any elemental damage counts towards bleeding with this build. Okay? Of course, I just think that overall the Blood Mage is a very strong life class. Talking a bit about the Blood Mage, you have infinite flasks, damage increase with very high uptime. Let's have a look at my flask a little bit. It has 70% increased charges gained. This gives you very high uptime, almost permanent, and you also get like more charges directly from the Sanguine Tides. So this is perfect. I recommend you just run this flask, it's the best, and then you have this damage delay. Essentially Desdance in League of Legends plus Crimson Power. This is like 500 life because I'm running a hybrid chest. So overall I think Blood Mage, very strong ascendancy for a life build. Just makes it easy to cross on the other side for a warrior life build, because of the nodes that you get here with strength and armor, whatever. So now you can obviously kind of get the idea with the Warcries. You swap with Earth Shatter and explode them, right? And there's another thing with this unique mace. It's essentially bugged, I think. All damage from hits with this weapon contributes to freeze buildup. So you explode these things and they actually end up freezing enemies. I can show you if we open this again, just so you guys get it better. Because I'm in the second weapon set, you see here with the Warcries, I'm swapping. So I am in the second weapon set when the explosion does damage. So any delayed damage could freeze enemies and contribute towards freeze buildup. Like Hammer of the Gods, any fissure effects, of course Earth Shatter. And you'll see here if I use my Earth Shatters, they will shatter as though they're frozen, because they're actually getting frozen. You can do this with any damage type, of course. And by running this, you can also proc Herald of Ice, because it's simply going to deal the damage from the primary weapon set. That's kind of like the bug that I'm looking at. Alright. Very nice. Now let's look at my actual mace on the primary weapon set. So this is focused on elemental damage. The base has fire damage by default as a white item, so it's perfect. It's just gonna have high DPS for this because you don't care about physical damage. Increased skill speed, which is going to help Sunder. Gain 5% of damage as extra damage of all elements. Perfect, like extremely good rune. And then, of course, I crafted this. It's not that hard because you're not gonna be able to get this type of item on the market. You just have to try to get tier 1, tier 2 fire, lightning, increased elemental damage with attacks. Although I haven't really tested or used like POB to see if cold flat damage would also be good. But this should be fine overall because it's just easier to roll. 3 level of all attack skills, chance for onslaught, and very important skills which create fissures have up to 25% chance to create an additional fissure. So for Earth Shatter, the other option here is to run Aftershock chance, which goes to like 16%. But Earth Shatter, the explosion cannot Aftershock, only the initial spike hit, which does way less damage. And for Sunder, if you roll some fissures, it's going to have much higher area of effect to the point where you can cover almost the entire screen, which is very big, especially because there's also a node with fissure, additional fissure chance. So this weapon, like I said, not that hard to craft, and it does insane elemental damage, which is going to scale really well with this build, you will see in a moment. Okay, we also have the Sacred Flame Shrine Scepter, sorry. Gain 70% of damage as extra fire damage. This is a high roll element, 60%, easy to get at any point of the league. Presence area of effect for the curses, and for overwhelming presence. And you also get the 100 Spirit, and by running one-hander with Scepter, you get a lot of attack speed for Sunder. And for Earth Shatter, these skills will actually feel really smooth with this setup. And of course, because it's an elemental damage build, if you have any kind of pen, it's going to help with everything, any kind of reduction. Enemies in your presence resist elemental damage based on their lowest resistance. So if it's like a high fire res, but it has very low cold res, say 0, then you're going to deal a lot of damage. For those types, because in this build we are dealing all 3 types of damage. Mostly fire and lightning, very high fire damage, not as much cold, but they all still matter. And we're also running this amulet, which it's like a shit tier amulet. I don't think people care about this so much, but I think it's very useful. Very useful for this build, especially a lot of life. Fire res, you don't have to worry about anything, because we're gonna run Aura Magnitude. The purity of fire is going to be massively boosted. So instead of giving you 48%, it's going to give you something massive. Let's see if we can have a look. Oh, it looks like quick maths, 80% or something fire is from this aura, which is pretty insane. And then you get another 81% from the amulet. So you see how easy it is to get that fire res capped. And we're already like over capping quite a lot, just because I have a little bit from other sources as well, unintentionally. Of course, because of purity of fire, you can run all of these because it's still bites in 0-1. Spirit, gems, another extra defensive layer from running Sacred Flames Scepter, and then you have the 100 Spirit, which is obviously potentially super useful. And of course does a lot on this build, because we need Spirit for Blasphemy with curses and stuff like that, since we care about curses, of course. Like, there's not much point to play this build if you're not introducing some kind of curses, especially Blasphemy, for the elemental, you know, bleeding is aggravated huge. Okay, of course we are a Headhunter, just nothing much else to run, with some stats. Oh, I'm gonna talk a bit about the rest of the items later, but now let's go over the skill trips. So for Life Remnants, this is just the default. There's not really much else to run. You don't even really need this, but it does give you some CDR for Forge Hammer and for WARCRY. Sunburn. Fist of War 2, very important, because it extends the AoE, and with nodes it's even bigger AoE, so it just helps clearing a lot. Branching Fissures 2. I think it's the most consistent. You can run Upheaval, Calm's Madness, of course, but this is for sure the best. I think with Calm's Madness, you lose too much attack speed, and it doesn't even cover that much ground, and it has less reach. And because I have chance to get additional fissures, the AoE we cover is usually about the same as Calm's Madness. Attack speed and Bitter, we have a lot of elemental gain, so this will allow us to not only CC enemies easier, but also proc Herald of Ice. So with Herald of Ice, it's the best herald for clearing, just has the most AoE. This is perfect. It's gonna be easy with this build to freeze enemies every single time with Embitter. Even elites can get frozen from just one Sunburn. It's amazing for clearing. This has like really high ratio. Perfect. Rewild's Ferocity. So this is a little expensive at different points in the league. 30% increased attack speed, and you lose some damage. Of course, the damage is really overkill usually, so you don't care about that. That way you get a lot of attack speed, and if you combine some other things, you can have attack speed on gloves, skill speed on hammer. We can make the Sunder run very smoothly. So what's next? Earth Shatter. Same thing here, and we have Bleeding. This is how we are going to proc our bleed. Damage at close range, elemental armament, and branching fissures as well. So with this setup, it's just very high single target damage, and you can also use Earth Shatter as a clearing skill, as I said. Leap Slam. This is just like a quality of life ability. I really like Leap Slam in general, because not only it covers a decent amount of ground, you get Holy Descent, can explode corpses with this, you just have some attack speed and AoE. It's just amazing. I find it hard, just annoying to play without a mobility skill, a leap skill or something in Path of Exile, because you can get out of stupid situations where you get stuck, maybe you get stuck in terrain, and you can also go over walls, so that saves a lot of time on certain maps. Going over walls just feels amazing in my opinion. Leap Slam, you know, you can remove it from the build, especially because I'm running some unset rings, but it's for sure amazing to run. Infernal Cry, The whole point is that you get this elemental damage increase skills with everything. Of course, Rage, AoE, cost, chance to not count empowered attacks, and cooldown recovery. Efficiency 2 is pretty important for WARCRYs. You just want to keep your health up, not a big deal. Now why are we running Seismic Cry as well? Because there's a limited amount of Earth Shatters you can have at a certain time, okay? So the new Earth Shatters are going to be replacing the old ones, which means that you have to like use 1 or 2 Earth Shatters and then WARCRY. That means you get higher DPS if you're running Seismic Cry as well. And of course, it's very easy to stun enemies on this build, you will see, so you can gain a lot of DPS, especially on bosses. So Seismic Cry is amazing, and we keep it at level 11. Everything else is level 21 corrupted, but Seismic Cry is not going to really scale with level, so we just keep it at level 11 for a low mana cost. And instead of AoE here we are running Exposure. Exposure, easy to apply pretty much permanently. This WARCRY has a 3-second cooldown. Okay, Forge Hammer. Fist of War 3, but Fist of War 2 is also decent, I gotta say. Rage Force, Close Combat, Elemental Armament, and Hemo Crystals. So, in this type of build, you could go for like a really big Hammer of the Gods with huge Ignite and Bleed. Not bad. But I found Forge Hammer with Hemo Crystals to be a lot more consistent. So, you're going to deal a decent amount of bleed, and you constantly explode them with a Forge Hammer, creating these Hemo Crystals. So you're not really bleeding enemies, you are mostly just creating these Hemo Crystals which deal damage based on the expected bleed damage. 8% of the highest expected remaining damage of the consumed bleeding. So if you have fast hits, often it can be a lot of damage from my testing. Definitely worth running. And like I said, if you prefer, you can also run Hammer of the Gods instead of this. I just find it a bit more annoying to use. That's pretty much it. And then of course, the Blasphemy. And in the passive nodes you will see we are also Aura maxing, Curse maxing. And talking a bit about this build, as a core idea, as a concept, you have a life build. You don't have energy shield. This is a very good defensive layer. Because we can think in the passive skill tree, hey, we have energy nodes, right? But we don't have life nodes. But if you invest into curses, the aura nodes act as defensive nodes for overwhelming presence and blasphemy. The running enfeeble and temporal chains, even overwhelming presence, reducing about half of elemental ailment threshold and stun threshold, we can realize that all of these are defensive layers because we can easily CC enemies and we can debuff them. Which means that you are really investing into life nodes or energy shield nodes by speccing into this for a life build. And we get Aura and the Ella's Desire, so these curses are as strong as possible. And if you haven't noticed yet, if you check on like some small mobs, 75% slow, 38% damage reduction, which is ridiculous. The cap for slows in this game is 75%, and they are slow capped. As you can see, they can't even really make actions. And against bosses, you can reduce about 40% of their DPS from these curses right now. And Feeble, about 20% on bosses, if you paid attention. And are just going to be massive, it's going to be pretty insane. Overwhelming Presence, just a +3 to levels. And of course, this is just a really strong thing. Herald of Ice, easy to proc. And just to be sure, you guys saw it, the Earth Shatter can proc Herald of Ice, as I said. And by running Bleeding on it with some long shot, elemental armament, AoE +1 to level, you can directly proc Herald of Blood. And you even have this budget charm, which can proc even more bleeding on Sunder. Not really needed, it's just like a decent thing if you want a budget one, I think. Spirit of the Boar has good synergy. It's fire damage, everything counts towards bleeding and damage reduction. I feel like the fire damage is overall the best thing, 20%. Pretty good. especially in Abyss. This build can do every content in the game very easily right now, it's just no problem, I haven't died in ages. So Herald of Blood is just gonna have some elemental damage, some bleeding magnitude, elemental armament, and of course it can chain off itself, so this is really good synergy. These heralds have the biggest radius, 2 meters, and this is 1.5 meters, about the size of my cock. And then elemental conflux is a bit of a luxury, because on the armor I have 60 spirit, so we can afford to run this, some leftover spirit for let's shock chance, +3 to level, and it's just going to rotate every 8 seconds between different elemental types. Some are not going to be as useful as others, depending on the situation, but you still gain a lot of damage. If you roll fire damage on a boss, considering how much fire damage we have because of the scepter, etc., it just ends up being a massive damage increase. Is Trinity Force better? Trinity, I mean, yeah, can be better, but it's 100 spirit, it's a huge investment. And you have to have like spirit on the amulet and such. Because of course the blasphemy is consuming a lot and you run 2 heralds. So I feel like elemental conflux is good. I'm also having 2 unset rings, so you can remove elemental conflux, you can remove a herald, you can remove lip slam, if you feel like you want to run something else. But I don't recommend you guys copy my build 1-to-1 anyway, just take some inspiration and have your own fun. Who the fuck copies builds, bro? Don't be a cuck. Let's have a look at what's next. I think we should talk about the passive skill tree. So, we run up, pathing towards the Keystone 4 curses. We pick up this jewel. Let's have a look at the jewel. Cold damage, lightning damage. Perfect. Some better chance to shock, chill. Damaging elements deal damage 4% faster. And these are some of the best combinations you can run for suffix and prefix on the jewel. Gain 1 rage on melee hit. This is the only source I have, so it makes sure that as long as I'm hitting, I'm full rage at all times, which is very nice quality of life. But of course the WARCRYs build rage very easily. Amazing Heart of the Well Diamond, pretty aggressive. Okay, we pet towards the Aura Magnitude, so we're gonna get Aura Magnitude here, some AoE, armor. We go to the Jewel Socket, we get Aura Magnitude again. 3% increased attack speed per enemy in close range, pretty strong for Sunder, to speed it up even further. We get a From Nothing Diamond, passives in radius of blood magic can be allocated, you'll see that's very strong in a moment. Hybrid boots with armor energy shield. This can give you a lot of armor, so it's worth running energy shield boots. We get a decent amount of energy shield, which helps against burst, and if you have Headhunter buffs, the energy shield can actually scale up to 1.5, 2k or something. So think about the fact that you can get about 5.3k life pool by overhealing with Blood Mage, and then you can also get like 1.5k energy shield here and there, so you can situationally be super tanky. More Aura Magnitude, Presence, Area of Effect, but this is all going to feed into Overwhelming Presence, Purity of Fire, and Blasphemy. And on this side, you can pick up all of these nodes, which is actually a bit harder to go do stuff if you play like a spellcaster or something to curse mechs. And yeah, like imagine you're mostly playing somewhere around here or here for a lot of caster builds and nodes. It's kind of difficult to go down here. 2 spare points here. I guess I'm level 97. If I go to level 100, I can even pick up damage against ignited enemies. That's just elemental damage. 30% increased damage with hits against shocked enemies. Huge value for 2 points, because normally to get a node like this you'd have to climb like 4, 5, maybe 6 points. So pretty strong there. We get some AoE, stun build up, attack damage. It's just for AoE. We are trying to get this amount of AoE, just like any mace build. And then we go up here and we pick up some more AoE, blood magic, because it's easy to use and we don't have to worry about mana, we don't have to invest into any mana. You could actually go a bit, even though it's playable. I gotta say that it's playable without blood magic right now. It's just very inconvenient and you actually end up losing DPS. So now this circle is for the From Nothing Diamond. We can pick up Prism Guard, Vengeful Fury, armor based on range, projectile bulwark, very huge, because projectile attacks at long range can mess with you a bit, since even though the aura of the curses is really high, yeah, you're mostly gonna be vulnerable to projectile attacks from long range. Damage at close range here, and we also get fissure chance. Huge. This is a really strong node for this build. And we can get to skip all of these nodes, such as gain range when hit by an enemy. These are all useless. Area of effect, well, not the best, so we can save a lot of points by going this from nothing diamond. But then, where it gets really interesting with this build, which is a pretty good cook combining these two jewels, is this Time Lost Sapphire. Increased effect of notable passive skills in radius. So everything here gets boosted, 5 of them so far. Notable passive skills in radius also grant 7% max roll increased magnitude of ailments. The crit chance for spells sucks, but if you want to get something different, something better, you'd have to invest a huge amount of currency. I think it's at least 1,000 divines. It was... Some of them are like a mirror. So, as long as you get one like this with these two stats, it's really, really strong. Because it also scales with each other. So the 7% gets boosted by the 23 up to 25% roll. Which means that we can get a little over 50% magnitude of ailments you inflict from this Time Lost Sapphire. And to give even more magnitude, we can get this freeze build-up, which is actually going to be pretty useful. 75% freeze build-up, some reduced freeze effects on you, and of course more magnitude of ailments you inflict, boys. You know how it is. This is gonna make it super easy to freeze. You saw there I froze XESHT very easily. Okay, let's go down. Of course, got the curses, I showed you a little bit. Armor. Very strong here for ancestrally boosted attacks, you get a lot of AoE. And here we have a really, really important cluster, because we get magnitude of ailments you inflict, duration of damaging ailments, a lot of damage, we lose attack speed, but it's fine. A lot of life here, pathing towards Blade Catcher, makes it very hard for monsters to surprise one-shot you with crits. Let's have a look at this Megalomaniac as well. Which was a steal, a catch. Pretty expensive, but really worth it. This is a mini herald effect, plus just overall increased damage at all points, with empowered attacks dealing 20% increased damage. You should give you a sizable amount of DPS increase. Maybe at least 5-7%, something like that. I don't know the exact maths right now. Even more anti-crit, reduced duration of ailments, very handy actually. Plus 10 strength, and Master of Access. And this is what I would be aiming for on Megalomaniac for the curse maxing. Master of Access, you need to spend like 6 points to get it. So 80% increased curse magnitudes, very, very strong. And this is the main thing that I was searching for when I was purchasing this diamond. We pick up the WARCRY here, so it's kind of important to get here because these nodes just end up making the WARCRYs a lot smoother. Temper defenses, these are just really useful nodes, and then we get another jewel socket. And if you look at this jewel, it's just insane. Magnitude of ailments, 23% is the max roll, you can get it with desecration. Even some elemental damage, a little bit of attack speed. But as long as you are getting the 23% roll by divining it, you are good to go. And even chance to daze on hit. And the way I crafted this is that I look for magnitude of ailments, attack speed, daze, and then something else that I can roll to desecrate. So a bunch of those, we crafted it. And in total, you have about 130% increased magnitude of ailments, which works with freeze, shock, bleed, ignite, chill, even poison, which we are not running because it's based on physical and chaos damage. So another insane jewel. Very strong jewel setup on this build overall. Now, let's have a look at items. I'm a little bit tired. I'm losing my voice here, but I really want to go through everything. So, items. Nothing too special on some of my things here. It's just armor also applies to elemental damage on every single piece that we can. And then a decent amount of strength, resistances, armor, HP. These are decent items, definitely. Kind of high rolls and combinations. Increased cost efficiency, I think this is pretty strong. It's kind of like burst resistance, it keeps your health higher, so it's harder for a monster to one-shot you. I think increased cost efficiency, yeah, just amazing to have on helmet. Plus 4 rage, which is a bit of damage increase. Easier to proc ailments, and gonna give you even a little bit of armor from that node. Just a tiny little bit min-max. For the chest, we got... By the way, these are some skins, so this is simply the Sacrificial Regalia, +1 to level of all corrupted skill gems, which is massive, with 3 slots, with some spirit, and just really good stats overall. It just doesn't have HP, but by running a hybrid chest with energy shield, you even get some evasion. Probably doesn't have much impact, but it's fine. You can get a lot of health from that Blood Mage node, on top of having some extra burst resistance with energy shield. And I also really like this Ancient Augment, Amanamu's Gaze. You get a lot of armor, like it's actually really efficient. So I recommend having a look at this. Not sure how it will be in 0.5. I'm gonna have a look and make an update. I also have more builds, so make sure to drop a sub. Because I also made 2 other really crazy builds. Very tanky, very nice clear on this league that I want to showcase. And we'll see how much we can upgrade them in 0.5, which is a massive patch. Gloves, attack speed, and magnitude of non-damaging ailments. You can get 20% of damaging for Bleed and Ignite, but why run this? Well, it's gonna give you a lot of damage from shock. 6% more damage, which is really big. And then, of course, stronger chill, stronger freeze. So it's perfect. Life resistances and some flat elemental damage. You can have attacks, speed on gloves, but it's not really needed. I'll mostly just try to focus on making resistances and stuff like that, but of course Thunder can feel even better, especially if you don't have the lineage for attack speed. Okay, boots. We just got some movement speed and resistances. As I said, this is a hybrid armor energy shield, so because we have energy shield we can get iron slippers, and that way we get a lot of armor. Very nice. The rings are kind of whatever, they just have some resistances, life, flat damage, nothing too crazy, 6-7 lightning damage to attacks. And if you can get this 30% increased fire damage, I would also say that it's pretty useful. If you happen to get it, it's actually comparable to the flat damage increases. And of course there are unset rings. I don't think the sacrifice for unset rings is too big, so just seems nice for my build. Unset is always gonna be a useful ring if you can get value out of it. And in this case we are getting Heralds, we are getting a Metal Conflux, and a Lip Slam, as I said. The charms, just to make it easier to regenerate the energy shield, not a big of a deal, doesn't really matter that much. With some guard on them, speed unaffected by slows, we don't need the onslaught one because we already get onslaught from the weapon. And the boar is just amazing overall. So, that's it with the setup. And I hope you guys have fun if you end up trying this type of build. I think the techs in it are very nice. I'm gonna continue my Twisted Domain run, talk a little bit about some other things, and then I will cut it off. At the end of the video I will show you the last few rooms of Simulacrum. This build is extremely strong in Simulacrum. Even at weak gear points, you can still do it pretty comfortably. It's basically mathematically impossible for me to die. The monsters don't even get to hit me because I just turn them into vegetables. So this is just a build that turns monsters into vegetables. What can I say? Naturally, when you sunder, at the end of the animation, you are dodge rolling to dash forward. Because warrior skills, they just have really weird functionality, where essentially every animation can be cancelled by your dodge roll, okay? And because every animation can be cancelled by your dodge roll, you just do it like this, and you'll go forward. It's useful. Okay, so just drop some more shatters. We can even try to tank the first hit. Never mind, it missed. Boom, boom. I want you in my room. Stun freeze, stun freeze. You don't even really play it properly. That's just very easy. Alright mates, I'm gonna leave you with the Simulacrum run. Cheers. Thank you for watching my video.